to scene 1 of King Lear. Very, very, very important for the subplot. We are on page 20, excuse me, of our paper 2 notebook. Remember, your job is to read the little summary that I've got there that will tell you everything you need to know about the content of the scene. And then my job is to go to page 23 and show you the important quotes. And you want to build as many knowledges, you want to build your knowledge of as many of these quotes as you can, so that when it comes to the exam, no matter what they ask, you know the play, you can answer anything that you need to answer. So let's start with Edmund and this interaction he has with this very minor character called Curran. Now, Curran says something that I think is really interesting. Now, I'm not going to mark everything here yellow. I know you go mad. But he says something really, really interesting. He says, "Have you heard of no likely wars twixt the Dukes of Cornwall and Albany?" Now, Cornwall is Regan's husband. Albany is Goneril's husband. If there are wars between them, that is what we call a civil war. Now, why might there be a civil war in Britain? Because Lear created the circumstances where that could happen. Lear is the man who had all the power given to him, according to the word of this play, by the gods. And he, with that power, was given a duty, and that duty was to wield the power responsibly in the interest of the people of the nation. Because of his vanity and his folly, his hubris, he has abdicated and divided the kingdom, created this rivalry between these two powerful houses, which is, it is believed, going to lead to civil conflict. And if that happens, the people in the kingdom will suffer, and that'll be Lear's fault. Very important. The abdication is like a pebble thrown in a pond. It doesn't just make one splash, it sends ripples out. When Edmund hears from Curran that the Duke of Cornwall is coming to his father's house, he reacts in just this marvelous, I love Edmund so much, he reacts in just this marvellous way. Sorry. He says, I'll have to do it properly, give me a second. "The Duke be here tonight. The better, best. This weaves itself perforce into my business." It's brilliant. I love the exclamation marks, 3 exclamation marks, really communicating his sense of excitement. What's he mean? He means deadly. The Cornwall's coming here. This suits me perfectly. I'm going to be able to weave, means I'm going to be able to use this development to help me achieve my goal. His business is his goal, and his business is to create that rupture, that breach between his father and his brother, so he can step into the gap and become the heir. So it's a brilliant moment because it illustrates the fact that Edmund really is somebody who has qualities that are admirable. He is an opportunist. When opportunity knocks, he's straight in and able to recognize it and take his opportunity or take his chances. Doesn't make him moral, doesn't make him admirable, doesn't make him, any less villainous, but it's certainly something that we need to consider when we're judging his character or assessing his character. We talked before about Edmund being a man who is duplicitous. We talked before about the idea of duplicitous being two-faced. I think the juxtaposition between this quote here and this quote here is worthy of note. Here he's talking to Edgar and he's pretending to be concerned about his brother. He's pretending to be concerned about, he's talking to Gloucester here. And he's pretending to Gloucester that he was concerned about his brother and that he's concerned about Gloucester. But he's lying. He's using manipulation and disguise and his intuitive understanding of his father's character in order to manipulate him, in order to make him malleable, easy to control. He tells him, I told him the revenging gods against parasites did all their thunders bend. With his prepared sword, he charges home my unprovided body. I love it so much. He knows that Gloucester is gullible. So he tells Gloucester, Daddy, he wanted to kill you. He wanted me to help him kill you. So I told him that that's wrong. It's against God's law. See the way he refers to parasite there? So parasite is a kind of colloquial corruption of the term patricide. I'm sure you know that the suffix "icide" means to kill. And I'm sure you know that your pater familias is your dad. So patricide, parasite, it's the murder of your father. And what Edmund is saying, there is that he's driven by the natural laws. When in fact he's driven by moral laws. In fact, he's not. He's driven by the natural law, number one, which hadn't been formulated until a couple of hundred years after Shakespeare died. But Darwin said the survival of the fittest. And the only law that Edmund adheres to is the survival of the fittest. But here he is telling his father that he's adhering to the moral laws. It's wrong to attack your daddy. It's a big lie. It's a brilliant moment of dramatic irony because we know what's going on. Gloucester doesn't. We've seen Edgar run away because he believed a lie that he was told about Cornwall. Edmund is a bad man, but he's a brilliant, brilliant bad man. Gloucester's reaction to this news is significant. He says, I will proclaim it, that he which finds him shall deserve our thanks. And then crucially, folks, bringing the murderous coward to the stake, he that conceals him death. Now we have to think about what that means. Stake. It's S-T-A-K-E. It's an instrument of execution. If you're brought to the stake, you're going to be killed. You're going to be executed. So Gloucester has made the decision to outlaw his son, to declare him an outlaw. In other words, to issue an arrest warrant for him, and saying that he's a murderous coward. Now, he has no proof for that. He completely swallows Edmund's story, his fabrication. And that's a weakness in Gloucester's character, and a weakness in Gloucester's character that leads him to order the murder of his own, we know he doesn't know, innocent son. And that is a big blemish on Gloucester's character. Even though he is being manipulated, to put a death sentence on your own son's life is an appalling act, and one that Gloucester has to pay for. Like Lear, there's so many parallels between Gloucester and Lear. Like Lear, Gloucester doesn't make one error, he compounds his errors. And in this scene, there is one quote that matters. And if you just learn one of the quotes from this video, that's the one. It is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant quote. Of my land, loyal and natural boy, I'll work the means to make thee capable. What does it mean literally? It means you're illegitimate, which means you're technically, legally not supposed to be able to be my heir, but I'm going to find a way to make you my heir. I'm going to reward your service, Edmund. Now, of course, Gloucester doesn't know what he's doing here. He doesn't realise that he has been completely manipulated. He doesn't realise that Edmund has a plan. Remember from Act 1, Scene 2? Legitimate Edgar, I must have your land. He succeeded. So this is Edmund's first, there are three of them in the play, nearly a fourth, but there are three of them in the play. This is Edmund's first moment of triumph. It's the first stage of his plan. Stage 1, replace Edgar as my father's heir. Stage 2, get rid of my father, become the Earl of Gloucester. This is his stage. This is his plan to remove himself from baseness. Why baseness? Why bastard? To power and legitimacy. So a very, very, very important quote, and indicative of Gloucester's weakness and Edmund's brilliance, and indicative of how in this world the corruption is thriving, and that all has to be traced back to the king's decision to abdicate. One last thing to mention really quickly, I know this video is too long. He calls him a natural boy, which is a brilliant example of dramatic irony by Shakespeare, of irony by Shakespeare, because there's nothing natural about Edmund. He's not loyal. He doesn't love his father. He doesn't love his brother. In fact, he is somebody who's embracing this, as I said, survival of the fittest attitude to life, and he'll crush anybody and everybody, including his own family, in order to achieve his goals.